Hi everyone, I'm Francesca and I lead the account management team here at Vimeo OTT. Thank you so much for joining us today. I'm really excited to be joined by Andrew Bridgman, who is the Chief Digital Officer at Dropout. So, over the next hour, we'll learn about Dropout's journey to success as they pivoted from being a business reliant on YouTube ad revenue and also being beholden to social media algorithms to launching their own wildly successful ad free premium content subscription OTT platform in partnership with Vimeo OTT. I know I just said OTT several times, so in case you're not aware, OTT stands for over the top, as in over the cable box. Feel free to comment in the chat and use the Q&A button on the right for your questions, and we'll address them during the Q&A session at the end of our conversation. And then after the webinar, we'll also send you this recording for reference. Okay, great. Let's dive in. Hello, Andrew.
Hi, French. Thanks for having me here.
Thanks for being here. Okay, so I think we can go ahead and just get started. Could you share what Dropout's all about? What's your mission?
Sure. Just to give some context, Dropout is a comedy-focused subscription streaming service powered by Vimeo OTT. We produce all of our own shows and distribute them. No licensing, no selling our content to other services. We were launched back when the company was originally known as College Humor, which is a brand founded nearly 25 years ago at this point that was primarily focused on making short-form sketch comedy for YouTube. Since then, we've launched our own streaming service with Vimeo OTT and have found a degree of success there. Our mission statement internally is to create an ecosystem where art can thrive. Many of us come from media companies where many of the decisions were driven by people who were a little disconnected from the actual art of the brand, and there were sort of inherent bits of dissonance and friction present. But our CEO now, Sam Reich, is also the head creative of our biggest hit show, Game Changer. So there's very little separation between the understanding of the business of Dropout and the understanding of the art of what we're making, and that is a big relief. And being on subscription and not beholden to advertisers has really made that process a lot simpler.
Awesome. Big fan of Game Changer. So obviously time flies when you're creating content that everyone loves. I know that Dropout recently celebrated its 5-year anniversary launching a streaming service. What was that like reflecting back on the past 5 years? Are there any learnings or things you would do differently or things you're celebrating for doing extremely well?
Sure, little in both camps. There are a few kind of distinct phases of Dropout's journey over the last 5.5 years. We launched in late 2018, back when we were under IAC, back when we were originally known as College Humor. And we were very ambitious with our goals at first. Uh, the ambitions were great because IAC is a very big company and they are looking for very big returns. And what ended up happening was we made a lot of, in retrospect, very obvious mistakes. Probably the chief of which was we decided we were going to build our own solution, meaning we were going to build our own browser experience. We were going to build all of our own apps, which we would have to maintain. And ultimately, we spent far more on the tech of building Dropout than the content. And we also were overspending on the content of Dropout and trying to figure out what made sense for subscription. And we weren't really landing on exactly what that ended up being, which turned out to be unscripted comedy. We leaned very heavily into scripted comedy initially, which is very expensive and doesn't really result in a lot of tonnage at the end of the day. And over time, we were able to experiment and kind of discovered unscripted comedy was what was really resonating with subscribers. By the time we became an independent company in 2020, we had a much smaller budget, which forced us to think very smart and efficiently, and that meant focusing on what worked. Our content ended up being less varied, but creativity strives under constraints. Um, and I think that one of the other big things that forced us to do was, hey, building our own solution was not sustainable. It was too expensive. It was too complicated, and so that was when we shifted onto being under Vimeo OTT.
Awesome. Well, we're very happy that you're here. What was Dropout's motivation to transition from relying on social media, YouTube, and ad revenue and launching a direct to consumer streaming platform?
You know, Dropout first started getting conceived of back in around 2016. And it was very clear then we were totally reliant on YouTube and Facebook ad revenue for everything. Um, and social media and big ad supported platforms like YouTube and Facebook are really good for a lot of things. They have this massive built in audience and have very advanced, slick tool sets. But if you're running a business through them, it means living in an absolute nightmare. Uh, for one, your followers aren't your followers, and everyone who's got like decent sized followings on any of these platforms understands that by now. It is up to your platform who gets alerted when you have new content posting, and any creator will tell you that only a fraction of their audience actually gets notified of new content. Why? Because these platforms are incentivized in a way that's very misaligned with creators. They're interested in content that engages their overall user base, which is why we see this trend towards discovery. All that matters is who has the most engaging content at any moment, regardless of their following. But this really devalues the creator's relationship with their fans, and it really encourages them to make very specific types of content and punishes any attempts to break free of like what's currently working in the algorithm at that moment. The second thing I'd say is you really have no idea how much money you're going to make month to month. A video you're sure will be a huge hit that you've invested so much time and money in can release and just flop, and you will never really know why. The platform won't tell you. It could be like the thumbnail was suboptimal or the click through rate wasn't great. Uh, Maybe some videos just get slapped with copyright claims because you sampled a few seconds of another video or a music track or something, and now some other company's monetizing your video. And a lot of those processes are automated. So a lot of the times they're wrong, and you will have to appeal it. And it will take, like a week or so for the appeal to come through. And even if it, results in your favor, you've just lost out on the first week of revenue, which is going to be where you probably make most of your money off of video. Just to pull a real life example, Jenny Nicholson had her huge, Star Wars Hotel Star Cruiser video. That was so big, a 4 hour long YouTube video that has nearly 9 million views. And she tweeted yesterday that Disney had made multiple claims on the video that were being appealed, but she said, I have no idea if I'm going to get any AdSense money out of this video. This 4 hour long video, meticulously edited and researched, and she might make $0 on it because of just some goofy platform stuff. And YouTube is incentivized to you know, you know work with Disney and honor their copyright claims because Disney's a huge spender in their ad business. So you're just at under the thumb of a lot of powers that really don't care about you, and there's really nothing you can do about that. And the last thing that I'll point to is that platforms can totally change everything one day with no warning, and you're just going to have to live with it. The rise of high discoverability vertical video feeds like TikTok are really good for small channels and a total nightmare for established ones. Short form vertical video ad units are very much still in their infancy, and if you think YouTube Shorts can replace the ad revenue that you were making on traditional longer form YouTube videos, you got to think again. Another real life example, this one from our camp, we have a channel that just posts YouTube Shorts for our show Game Changer, and in the last year, garnered something like 775 million views, and it generated like $87,000. $87,000, good amount of money, not for close to a billion views. It's roughly, we did the math, it's like $112 per million views, which is
Crazy.
totally unsustainable, which is so much less than what you'd be making with similar view counts on longer form video. But this is what YouTube wants to push right now. They want to push these short videos, and If you're trying to run a business, the 87,000, that's a good amount of money for an individual. If you're trying to run a business, you can't do that and rely on these ad units. And there's really nothing you can do about that reality of like, this is what Meta is pushing, this is what YouTube is pushing, this is obviously what TikTok is pushing, and you're just at the mercy of that. But when you have your own service, you lose out on some things. You don't have the discoverability of a big platform, but you can actually form a relationship with your fans. You can send emails and app notifications about new videos. You can have them pay you directly through subscriptions or VOD rentals and purchases, and you just have full control over how your content is presented and distributed. And the good news is that you can still use all these social channels to help promote your streaming service and find new fans, but in a way that actually kind of aligns with what the platforms are going for these days, which is reach and audience engagement.
Yeah, I think you have done an amazing job of kind of like marrying the two in that regard with the social and then driving to dropout.tv.
Yeah, thank you.
So, what's the pathway from free fans to paid subscribers look like for Dropout?
Well, it's very much what I was just talking about. The nice things about social feeds these days is that they are about discoverability. So if you're making really good content and you're packaging it well for social media, it will find an audience and draw attention to you. We put a lot of effort into finding people where they're at. So they're on TikTok, they're on Instagram, they're on YouTube, and we're not very shy about how much of our content we post. Uh, we open up new accounts on every major social platform for every show we have, and we post all the best bits from every episode on a nearly daily basis. We found that something like 67% of visitors to our sign up pages are coming from Google search. And for us, that's awesome. That means a majority of users are discovering Dropout for the first time and are specifically searching for us, which displays really high intent. People are not stumbling across us accidentally or through marketing tricks. They've seen a lot of our content and they are specifically seeking out more. Another really good sign for us that this path is working, our trial conversion rate typically hovers around 85%, which means only like 15% of users who start a free trial break it, because people are coming to the platform have largely already been convinced that they like what we have to offer through the free content we've exposed them to on these social platforms. They're being, more or less pelted with dropout content every single day on every social media platform they visit. And eventually they relent and say, okay, I'm willing to give you a paid subscription. Uh, we keep our prices low too because we're targeting a younger demo who are probably already subscribed to a few other streaming services as it is and are being pretty cost conscious of their wallet being stretched too much. But once they're in, we find they largely stay in. The average LTV for monthly subscribers is over a year, and for annual subscribers, it's closer to like 3 years. And our average paid churn is like 4%, which is lower than virtually every big streamer except Netflix.
And you have an amazing community that you've built. On that, can you share more about what your current subscription model is, like monthly versus annual or anything like that?
Yeah. We keep it very simple. We offer two levels of subscription, just monthly and annual. Monthly is $5.99 a month. Annual is $59.99 a year. Although we very aggressively market the annual option, we offer big promo codes that take it down to like the equivalent of $4 a month. Uh, because again, we see the lifetime value of annual subscribers being like 3 to 4 times greater.
Nice. Is there anything you'd like to share around release strategy and driving users to the platform via social?
Yeah. Again, social media is really incredible for getting people's attention. Uh, we aim to give subscribers something to be excited about every week if we can. And obviously, social is where a lot of the conversation around the content is happening. Um, and we are clear not to mistake that as meaning, well, that's the way to get people back to our platform directly. Social platforms do not optimize for links that take users offsite. So when we're on their turf, we're playing their game to get visibility. We are posting content. We are not being too pushy with links back or anything, but we are leaving enough information within the content itself that people understand like what it means. We're posting schedule updates, and when there's a new episode of something, we're posting like a great video clip from it, and people understand that means, hey, there's a new episode of that today on Dropout.
That's awesome. And that kind of goes back to what you said around folks finding you via Google search and your churn being so low. So you trust that they will find the journey to you.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. And Vimeo offers a lot of great tools for getting people's attention. We send out app notifications. We utilize email newsletter lists, stuff like that.
Wonderful. So speaking of Vimeo, why did you decide to partner with Vimeo OTT for your subscription business? Can you touch on the benefits of using Vimeo versus what it was like to manage and maintain a fully custom solution, since you really do have that unique perspective of having had both sides of the coin?
We both have that unique perspective, French,
We
because
really do.
you were part of the company back when we
I,
originally launched in 2018.
that's very
Um,
true.
Again, we launched with our own fully custom solution back then because we were very ambitious. Not only were we ambitious with like the content and our drive to be like, oh, we want to fully own this experience. We wanted to have non-video content be part of the app as well. We had comics and like chats that went in there too, and we're like, oh, we're going to be very ambitious. We want to do, we want to be the kind of the everything content app. We want to have any kind of content we could dream of all in one app. Running your own fully custom solution has that one benefit in that you can theoretically make anything work however you want. However, it is inordinately expensive to build and maintain your own solution. Just the browser aspect would have been far, far beyond what we could afford. But then you need, to get individual engineers and developers for every single app you build and maintain. And these apps will require constant maintenance, constant updates, and at the end of the day, we are a content business. That was our core competency. We were really good at content, and we were having to spend so much money to build these apps, to maintain them, to deal with 24/7 customer service, to deal with legal compliance. We forced ourselves to become a tech company. Um, but the problem is when we're, from a user perspective, they don't care how big a company is. They just want the stuff to work. And Netflix and Hulu and Disney Plus and all of these other, major streamers can afford to have hundreds or thousands of engineers and developers building these apps and guaranteeing a great experience. Us, even when we were spending way more money than we could ever afford, uh, ended up with a very optimal product. It was very buggy. There was a lot of downtime. It was not a very intuitive UI. Uh, and we were spending money that could have gone to things that would have really helped the business and more content, things like that. And we had to spend it on maintaining this app experience that was not very good. Uh, and then obviously, Vimeo OTT is able to accomplish this by having a similar scale to a lot of the big streamers, but just distributed amongst all these smaller streaming services that all benefit from the team's efforts and work. And, you know, those first 18 months, I would never return them. I will warn people from mountains up on high, do not build your own solution. Vimeo's right here. I don't have to worry about customer service. I don't have to worry about legal compliance. I don't have to worry about the dozen or so apps we're able to have running at all times that have great uptime and all have, by the way, 5 stars in every store. Uh, it's incredible. And our budget can go to what actually matters to us and what we're actually good at, which is content.
That's exactly right. So you sort of just touched on this, but what features does Vimeo OTT offer that help Dropout improve the viewing experience for your community?
Yeah, I mean, Dropout of the past was trying to do too many things. But Dropout today is not aiming for anything particularly complex. We have a very simple single tier subscription model. Whether you are on monthly or annual, you have access to the same content. And Vimeo's most exciting features to us are honestly the simplest ones. It is extremely reliable. There's virtually no downtime, uploads are speedy and precise, and the apps are stable and consistent. The highest compliment I can give pretty much any tech company we work with is I don't have to think about it most of the time because it just works. We have, like I said, almost like a dozen apps that Vimeo has built and maintains so that we're meeting the customers where they're at on iOS, on Android, on Roku, etc. Uh, Vimeo handles all of the customer service inquiries, which thank you so much because I know how many people reach out with like very obvious questions that are answered in FAQ docs and stuff. And so we don't have to have a team of 24/7 support staff constantly responding to these things.
And we're happy to
Uh,
do.
yeah, and it's just you provide a really high quality viewing experience that you can't really get through YouTube. We talk all the time about how crummy a lot of our stuff looks on YouTube because of the compression stuff you have to deal with there. And you don't have to deal with that on Vimeo. It's great. And we know that Vimeo OTT also offers like a lot of great features that we really haven't delved into much yet, but is very exciting to know they're there. Live streams and VOD purchasing and ad-supported tier options. Maybe someday, and until then, it's just nice knowing they're there.
That's great. So how has the pivot to subscription impacted your business? Have you noticed any differences in the type of content that's most successful on your SVOD, your subscription service versus the YouTube ecosystem?
It's so much nicer, French. It's so much better. It's wild. The pressure to release content is just much, much less constant. When you are living and breathing the algorithmic world of social platforms and depending on ad revenue, you are incentivized to make content as quickly and rapidly as possible. Quality always has to come second. Rate of delivery is the thing of importance. Not only because like you need to feed into this algorithm, but you don't know which of your videos are going to be hits. You don't know which of your videos are going to get demonetized or have their copyright claimed. So you are in a pure numbers game. With subscription, it's different. There is absolutely pressure to put out content on a consistent basis, but with the nature of your revenue being driven by subscriptions, you're permitted to take your time and deliver a more quality product. Like we recently decided to delay an episode of our biggest show, Game Changer, by 2 weeks because we wanted to spend more time in the edit. So we did that, and
That freedom, yeah, that's
we were
great.
able to communicate with our fans like, hey, we want this to be the best thing possible for you, and we're gonna push this by an additional 2 weeks. That would have been unthinkable if we were living in the YouTube world. We need to get that out yesterday, but in the subscription world we can do that, and our subscribers are very understanding. We didn't see any increased rate of churn or anything like that, because you were able to have that kind of like direct relationship and this focus on quality. The internet is a very big place where all kinds of content can perform well. But what we found is that scripted, kind of slightly parasocial content works extremely well for our subscription service. And it allows for significantly less time needing to be spent in pre-production, which allows content to run a little longer, and cast members can just be themselves to deepen that connection with viewers. Uh, and the problem with, that's what we've landed on, right? That's like the mode of content that works well for us, that our subscribers have really responded to and works well, and we're building on that. The problem with the AVOD world, advertising video on demand, and the algorithmic world, is that what's working there changes constantly, which forces creators to change like their brand all the time to meet what the new formats are, what's in the zeitgeist, the topics people are talking about. And so you just lose that element of yourself and your brand, because you are just beholden to the algorithm and this platform that you don't mean a lot to. And subscription lets you be yourself. It's great.
That's awesome. Um, so you've mentioned Game Changer a lot. So I would love to hear, and I'm sure the audience would too, about some of the most popular series on the channel.
Sure. I'll talk about two of them specifically. Uh, One, I'll talk about Dimension 20, which was kind of our first big hit that kind of allowed us to really, like survive a little bit once we became an independent company.
Mhm.
It is an actual play TTRPG actual play show. I said actual play twice. Apologies. And what that means is TTRPG means tabletop RPG, mostly things like Dungeons and Dragons. Actual play is just like the genre of content of watching people play these games and tell these stories. And so this is surprisingly a pretty popular genre. Believe it or not, there's another show called
I
Critical
believe it.
Role. Yeah, I mean, you would think you told. Well, when I was first told, "Hey, we're going to make this show," back in 2018, we are a short form scripted comedy channel,
Yeah, yeah,
comedy humor. And we're like, "Hey, we're going to make the show watching people play D&D around a table. Every episode is going to be 2 to 3 hours long,
yeah.
and there's no script." And I was like, that's the worst idea I've ever heard. And I have never been more wrong in my life. It's really incredible. I mean, people form these really deep connections and relationships to the show. We have an incredible, talented cast of comedians who are
Yes, we do.
telling these really brilliant stories. It's really like improv with dice. And it's really like taken a foothold in the culture. We recently announced a live show at Madison Square Garden for next year, and it sold out within a few hours. We sold out basically 20,000 seats in a few hours.
It's
There was a
incredible.
big disaster with. We were unknowingly subject to dynamic pricing, and tickets were going for more than Taylor Swift concert tickets. We
Wow.
fixed it. We fixed it and undid all that, and made sure that's never going to happen again. But yeah, it's just really become this juggernaut in the space, which is just so exciting to see. And our other big show is this show Game Changer, which is a game show where the premise changes every episode, which means like the contestants will come out having no idea what they're doing before they arrive at their podium. And sometimes it's a game where the goal is to place second place in every challenge, or the game is going to be filled with these like very sweet, wholesome moments, and your goal is to not cry. Uh, the really fascinating thing to me is that it is hosted by our CEO, Sam Reich, who also serves as like the chief creative producer on it. And it's really blown up on social media too. Like we're running a campaign for Emmy nominations this year, and Variety, like the other day, wrote us up as a favorite to get nominated. We're not counting on that. It's a very competitive category and everything, but the fact that we're in like Emmy nomination conversations is just really cool.
It's incredible. It's so exciting to see. Um, so, what advice do you have for other creators? How can they offer additional value to their audience to entice them to subscribe to their content?
That's a really good question. You know, we find a lot of value in being very transparent and straightforward with our audience, and kind of doing whatever we can to make ourselves stand out from other creators. One thing that brings to mind is when Netflix made kind of a big deal about their clamping down on password sharing. We posted publicly encouraging Dropout subscribers to share their passwords with those who couldn't afford a subscription themselves, and it earned us a lot of goodwill. It got shared around a lot, and anecdotally, we heard from a ton of fans that they had previously used a shared password, but they loved the content so much that they eventually became full subscribers themselves. Uh, I think part of the lesson there is really empower your fan base and your audience to become evangelists for your brand, because nothing will be as powerful as like that kind of word of mouth. So do right by your fans, make great content, and the word will spread.
Yeah, and that's just a testament to the community that you've built. They serve it back to you, which is really nice to see.
Yeah.
So what is on tap next for Dropout? Would love to hear more about. You mentioned the Emmys, so would love to hear more about the Emmys push and any content you're excited about coming up. We would love to hear about it.
Sure. Just FYI, today's the last day of voting for the Emmys. So if there are any Television Academy members, highly encourage you
Cast your
to
vote.
consider Game Changer and Very Important People. Um, the Emmys is very interesting. It was a total pipe dream like a year ago, and we're certainly not counting on anything this year. But the fact that we're in the conversation is just very meaningful. Uh, the challenge is we're outsiders. The Emmys is a very insider kind of event, but it's very exciting that people are taking notice of us. Even though the average Dropout fan probably looks a little different than the average Television Academy voter. Um, but doing this for your consideration campaign has just gotten us a lot of notice, and honestly, it's gotten us access to a lot of like bigger talent that had previously kind of not really taken much notice of us. We're casting new shows now, and we're just finding like agents are coming to us now, and that's like, oh, that's a very unusual thing for us. Um, what's next for Dropout is to think a little radically in the space, and by that I mean very slow, very steady, and very sustainable. Uh, if there's one thing I'd point to in the streaming wars as being a big problem, it is sort of like the reckless abandon of the big players. They're doing huge blockbuster movies with A-list stars and massive budgets being released direct to streaming, and that's uh, an unhinged decision, in my opinion. There's this arm race that it looks like they're probably going to destroy a lot of them, and so uh, we're thinking, slow and steady. We are going to not overextend ourselves. We learned that lesson in the past. We don't want to revisit that. We want to really grow something in a way that makes sense for us and our audience.
That makes sense. And that's exciting, and I can't wait to watch. So before we dive into Q&A, just one more question, and you started to kind of talk about this, but if you can share on any goals that you guys are targeting for the next 5 years, we would love to hear about it.
Sure. 5 years ago, you would ask me, like, what does Dropout look like in 5 years? I would have given you probably a very different answer than what the reality is. And so, we're not trying to be too ambitious with like where we're going to be in 5 years. We want to keep making great content. We want Dropout to be our home base for everything. And we want to continue producing the kind of shows that we're doing now. Maybe they're bigger, maybe they have like some bigger names attached to them. And ultimately, we want to just keep entertaining ourselves and entertaining our audience. We don't want it to morph into something completely unrecognizable. One thing we are excited about, honestly, is we want to be a bigger player in Hollywood and help influence the business as a whole. I think back to the strikes last year and how kind of disastrous and stupid the AMPTP were being about everything. Like very reasonable asks from the writers and actors and directors, and bring Hollywood to a halt over very reasonable asks was really absurd. And we're hoping to lead a little bit by example, I guess. We always aim to pay our talent and crews significantly better than like the minimums required by the unions. We've anecdotally heard we pay a lot better than certain enormous streamers you may have heard of. And we want to be a new model that other creators can follow. Like there's a world in which this is very sustainable and a very good business to be in. And beyond that, we're talking about maybe a movie, maybe some video game adaptations or some publishing deals or things like that. Uh, but we're not trying to get ahead of ourselves. Slow and steady. That's the message.
Very, very wise, but not surprising. This is great, Andrew. Thank you so much.
Thank you, French. I really appreciated that.
Cool. So I think we can hop into some Q&A if we have
Sure.
some questions. They'll pop up on the screen. So Katie asks, do you find programming series sorry, I'm in New York, so I don't know if this is too loud with the sirens. But do you find programming series to release every other week incentivizes people to stick around, or do people get frustrated waiting for it?
Oh, this is a great question and something that touches on something I probably should have mentioned. Virtually every show we have releases every other week, with the exception of Dimension 20, which is a weekly show. And you'd assume that might be a little hard for people who are used to either kind of the binge model that Netflix still pursues or the weekly model of like more traditional television. Um, we find that the every other week release has worked really well. People, they're as long as they're getting what they, and it all depends on what your price point is going to be. But as long as those releases are meaningful and high quality, then people are very happy about them. And we have enough variety of content in our programming right now that we still have like pretty good weekly releases every week because we have enough shows. But even back when we were much smaller, had a lot fewer shows, people were willing to stick around for sort of irregular releases because they enjoyed them so much. And it just from a subscription point of view, an every other week show will just allow these series a lot more shelf life than a weekly release. You're going to burn through things so much more quickly, which means you're probably going to see higher churn for people who came for a specific series.
Right.
We're launching a new season of our one of our improv shows today. Make Some Noise. It's a 20 episode season. 20 episodes is great. 20 weeks is really good, but for the amount we're spending on it, it just makes a lot more sense to get 40 weeks out of it. And once you're at 40 weeks for the show, you find that people are probably going to stick around for the full year at that point.
It's great.
Really good question.
So Graham asks, was there a minimum viable level of content you aim for in terms of total available content and or schedule of new releases that you aim for or that you were able to recognize in retrospect?
Really good question too. I would say viable level of content is something that requires a little bit of nuance. Back in like our original incarnation, we were releasing a lot of stuff. We even were doing a lot of like live to tape kind of shows just to fill up our schedule, and we would have like 8 or 9 releases every week, and none of them moved the needle for us really. And when we were shrunk down into having like, in 2020 we probably were reduced to having like 4 shows total that were not always airing at the same time. But having shows that had like depth of audience to it was what actually mattered. We would have some weeks where we had no new releases, but having stuff like Dimension 20 in particular, where every episode is like the length of a Lord of the Rings movie, made all the difference. Because if you're interested in a show that has that, if you're watching a show where every episode is 3 hours long, you are
Yeah.
very invested. You are
Yeah.
going to stick around. You are going to see what else is going on here.
Yeah.
And so I don't think you need some kind of true minimum viable level of content. Again, trying to have like at least one thing a week feels good, but if you are making a high quality piece of content, and it really only takes one to draw someone in and keep them around, as long as they know like they can expect more of it. That's generally I think what I'd say. Like don't think about quantity, because like quantity is the game you're playing on AVOD. You're
Right,
looking for
right,
just
right.
views and audience reach. You're looking for depth of audience and subscription. So you can have one thing as long as it's good.
Yeah, you're afforded that luxury when you're driving your business on an OTT platform versus being at the mercy of AVOD. Jane Velez Mitchell asks, what are your monthly views on Vimeo OTT? Ooh, is that something you're comfortable
Ooh,
sharing?
yeah. I think I can probably share some kind of number
Or a
there.
range that you're comfortable with, maybe?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I will say, it's a totally different game from YouTube and any social platforms. You know, we are let me think how many views we are. There's also the difference between views and hours watched. We are doing. I'm going to pull this up actually.
You share what you're comfortable with, though, Andrew.
Yeah. I'll give them a little bit. I'll say like at this point, like we're so much bigger than we were 5 years ago. We are driving generally over 10 million views a month. I'll say that. So pretty not like that, and that would be nothing in the YouTube world. That
Right.
would be 10 million views in a month, even in like a higher CPM for like longer form videos, would not be enough for like 2 or 3 people. Maybe if it was a 2 or 3 people team, like great. When you're a company of our size, which is like nearly 25 people, I think now, plus like a lot of contractors and freelancers,
Yep.
uh, that number is, you know, it would be nothing on YouTube, but it's like very good for us.
Yeah, that's great. Katie asks, in the algorithmic world, you get punished a lot for taking creative risks that step outside your audience's expectations. Do you guys find that you see sub drop off when you deviate away from your big hits? This is a really good question. I like it.
Not really, actually, because each new thing we do that's like different from a previous thing is just another opportunity to bring a new demographic in. And in the meantime, like a lot of your existing subscribers, if they're not interested in a piece of content, they probably still have other things on the subscription that they came for that they're interested in, and it doesn't really get you punished. For example, last year we did a season of our show Dimension 20 that featured a bunch of drag queens from RuPaul's Drag Race. And we saw that we had a ton of new viewers coming to the platform, and there were some like normal Dimension 20 fans who were like, well, this isn't the cast I'm used to. I'm not going to check this out. But we didn't see any churn. We just saw this huge new contingent of viewers come in who were like, I love RuPaul's Drag Race. I love Bob the Drag Queen. I love Monet Exchange. I love Alaska Thunderfuck. I love Jujubee. This is incredible. And
Yeah.
so it's very additive that way. Like deviating away from your hits usually just opens up a new audience for you.
Yeah. You're driving incremental
Yeah.
folks. That's great. And then also, just to point back, like you've built a community, so there's not a lot of anger and negativity around like change or something new, which I think is really important to
Listen, there's always people who
highlight. But
say
not a
stuff on the
lot.
internet, but no, it's a very positive, and that's the thing. Like, being very transparent and upfront with our fans has resulted in them being very understanding. Versus the comment section in the College Humor days where it was just
I
complaints like,
know.
"Where's Jake and Amir?" or I miss the old College Humor. This
Yeah.
stinks. Whatever.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
now, if you go to our comment section on YouTube, people are evangelizing Dropout. Like, it's the best thing. I love Dropout. It's the best $6 I spend every month, and that's a very unusual thing to say about a streaming service because they feel like they have a bit of a relationship with us, and they really believe in the mission that we're on.
It's wonderful. Juan asks, how do you partner with your third-party content creators?
Well, like I
I
said, we we
Yeah.
we produce everything in house, and so we do not like license anything from elsewhere. But we do work with a lot of third party content creators as being part of our shows. We bring them into our world, and we will have them be parts of our shows and stuff. But there's already like a formula and a structure that we're bringing them into, and it's works for us in that we are usually bringing their audience along to Dropout now and like giving them the Dropout experience. When we had uh, creator Hank Green on a season of Dimension 20, we found a lot of Hank Green fans came into Dropout, and we formatted the season he was on like a little bit around him. It was very like sciency and informational and things like that. And so when we have a third party content creator we're really excited about, we can find a way to like organically bring them into our world in a way that's like exciting for our fans and exciting for their fans. He just launched a stand-up special from Hank Green last week about his journey with cancer, and it's really good, really uplifting, really wonderful. Highly recommend.
It's on Dropout.
It's on Dropout. Yeah, it's our
Amazing.
first stand-up special.
Yeah, that's awesome. Okay, I will definitely be checking that out. And I'm sorry I missed the premiere. I think we have another question coming. This one's a little bit more broad, but how do you manage content? So take the question how you'd like to answer
Okay,
it.
yeah, there's a lot of. I mean, the simplest way, I guess, Vimeo OTT is our content backend. It's our CDN. It's a great way of managing content. If that's the question. If the question is more like, what is the overall structure in the backend to manage like all content ops? We use Airtable for a lot of stuff for managing, like big databases of stuff. We have like a lot of paperwork we need to hold on to. We have a lot of like information that needs to be stored about every piece of content we create. And so
Yeah.
Airtable has been a really valuable tool for us in navigating that, as we're making more and more content. Um, yeah, does that answer the question?
I think so. I have a follow-up question that I'm now is escaping me. Oh, I was going to ask you what. So when something's in the can, when is it ready before you release it? Like, are you cutting it down to the wire, or is it ready 3 weeks in advance, or is it ready months in advance?
We have an incredible post production team that usually finishes a piece of content at least 3 weeks before it airs, so we can put it through a proper quality control process.
Mhm.
Um, but like I mentioned with Game Changer, we had to push it. We had to delay because ultimately, if things are going to take, like, we have proposed release dates and everything, but if we need to spend a little more time on something because we don't think the quality is there yet, or we think it could just benefit from a little bit more time in editing,
Mhm.
we'll take it. You know,
And you have that luxury.
we have that luxury. Yeah.
Awesome. Graham asks, "What's the rest of your marketing tech stack like? Does Vimeo play nice with it at all?"
Interesting question. We have I run the marketing, and we have a very lo-fi marketing tech stack. Uh, we don't use any third-party social platform for or marketing platform for any of our like social media stuff, which will surprise a lot of people maybe. But the truth is, using these like very like I won't name any specific ones, but they're all API based, and there's like a lot of limitations you run into around like what each social platform will let you do. So we post most things directly through their individual apps and everything, which is a little onerous. I quickly found out how many accounts you're allowed to be logged into on an individual device on Instagram, TikTok, and stuff. And so I have to have like multiple phones sometimes to post everything I need to post. Uh, the one we do use HubSpot for mostly managing our marketing emails, and Vimeo plays very nice with it. Vimeo has a very like great API. We have one of the more complex HubSpot setups that I think most people would run into. We're tracking events like when a user sets cancellation, so we can send a cancellation save email like, "Hey, don't leave. Here's a promo code," kind of thing. Um, when like a new subscriber comes in, we have them whether they're labeled as marketing contact or not to deal with GDPR. And other than that, I'm trying to think, French. Am I missing anything? Like email marketing, social, those are like our primary outlets. We do a little bit of paid marketing, and we don't that doesn't really need to connect directly with Vimeo other than having like tracking pixels to know about checkout events, which is something that Vimeo supports.
I think this might drive too nicely to our follow-up question that should be on the screen in a second. Potentially, yes, from Ola, Mexico. Where are you spending your advertising dollars?
We spend very little, I'd say, compared to a lot of other SVODs, at least the ones that I'm aware of.
Mhm.
We are spending like a few $1,000s a month, I'll say, primarily on TikTok, and we're not being very aggressive with it. We are using it mostly for reach more than anything. We are just boosting existing highly performing organic posts. Because again, we find the journey people typically have with Dropout is they'll see a bunch of stuff on social, whether it's on Instagram or TikTok or YouTube Shorts. We'll see a huge spike in longer form YouTube videos right after we see a big spike in the social. And then we'll see maybe like these are all separate by a few days, and then we'll see a big spike in subscriptions on our platform, which indicates they're seeing the short form stuff. They're interested. They're looking for free content. They'll watch the free content. They'll hit the wall on the free content, and then they're like, "Okay, you got me. I'm interested," and they'll go there. So we're spending a little bit of money on paid through TikTok, and most of our advertising dollars, truthfully, go to people we work with. We have a crew of video editors who are making like these vertical cut downs of our
Mhm.
content with the captions baked in. Our marketing team has expanded from just me to being two other individuals, someone running email marketing and a new social media manager. And that's been working for us. We go very strong on organic.
That's great. And just to note for everyone, you're not afraid to test anything, right, Andrew? I remember when YouTube Shorts came out, like you tested it. So like as different platforms and different formats pop up,
Oh
you
yeah, YouTube Shorts is such a weird platform. Can I talk about YouTube Shorts for just a second? It's so weird because at first it was like, okay, TikTok was really blowing up. TikTok worked for us, and it was a total like shot in the dark at first. Like, okay, there's this platform TikTok. It seems mostly for dancing, but hey, it's big, it's popular. We'll try posting on it. We got immediately big success with Dimension 20 and Game Changer. Like, okay, cool. This is actually working, and this is panning out for us a little bit. YouTube Shorts is launching, and that's their TikTok competitor. And we were posting there, and it was like nothing was hitting. And I was like, okay, well, this maybe isn't working here. Oh well. And we left, and then a month later, we checked back in, and like the Game Changer Shorts channel has like 300,000 subscribers after not posting anything for a month. Like, what is happening here? And it's just got a very bizarre discovery. Like, there's a slight like fuse delay over on YouTube Shorts for some reason. Um, but it's proven to be great. It's one of our biggest platforms now. We post organically there all the time. We don't have. I don't. We started toying around potentially spending money there, but we ran some roadblocks. And it's Game Changer Shorts is at like 2 million followers or subscribers on YouTube. Again, we had close to 1 billion views there last year.
right, right.
That was all organic. So
That's great. And then it's driving folks to sign up on the OTT platform.
yeah,
Awesome. Katie asks, how has paid marketing helped you guys communicate with the external audiences? Do you find the return is worthwhile? You kind of already touched on this a bit.
Good question. I mean, we aim for we try to get the CPAs pretty low. The cost per acquisition is pretty low, so that like it makes enough sense. There is always the worry that with paid stuff is like, are we truly? Is it truly additive? Are these people we may have gotten otherwise still that this is being pushed to, or anything like that? And so it's also the kind of thing we don't want to become too dependent on it, because it is like a little bit of a mystery how exactly it's working or if it's being all that effective. But we spend a little on it just, to make sure we're not ever going to regret it. And there is a world in which we like really ramp that up, or ramp it up around like certain big show releases or something. Uh, we find the return worthwhile, but we're always a little skeptical of like investing too much in it, I guess I'd say.
Yeah, I understand. That makes sense. The underbelly. Are you connecting via Zapier to HubSpot or does it integrate natively?
There's not a native integration there. We use a similar tool to Zapier called Vercel that has worked really well. You got to deal with some kind of webhooks situation with that. But once you get that set up, it works really great and it's really easy. So uh, haven't really run into any problems there since we got that connection.
Set it and forget
Exactly.
it. Oh, I think we answered this one already.
Yeah. If there's a more specific, like, how are we managing content? Calvarel, yes. Uh, Happy to answer it, but yeah.
Let's see if there's any more that come in. What's your view about fashion content for OTT platforms? I'm not sure.
It's
Andrew,
great. I
yeah?
mean, hey, if like the beauty of OTT platforms that are supported through Vimeo OTT is that it can be any demo that's kind of underserved. Unscripted comedy was a very underserved demo we found. Like people who are fans of improv and stuff, there weren't a lot of options out there really for them. And so you see a lot of like, workout SVODs or yoga or, Shutter for horror fans or the Criterion channel. Like you find a niche, you find an audience that's underserved. And like the fashion community, like, yeah, that seems like a great one.
Yeah. I would agree and underscore everything that you just said. Like niche works best for SVOD versus the masses would be an AVOD play. And it's really hard to serve for the masses unless you're prepared to compete with Netflix and Hulu.
Totally agree.
Yeah, we've been there. We understand. I think that was our last question, unless anyone has any other questions they want to quickly drop into the Q&A. Otherwise, we'll give it 2 seconds. Otherwise, thank you. Oh, one more. How is the data gathered and reviewed? Do you have a favorite platform or platforms outside of Vimeo OTT dashboard?
Yeah, Vimeo TT offers a really nice analytic backend. We also use like Google Analytics, and we have like we pull in some like custom reporting as well. But you, we don't get surprised, I guess, very often by the analytics. I guess like we can pretty much tell like what's going to be hits, what are going to be driving new subscribers and stuff like that. And it's always a little bit of like a little bit of guesswork when you're dealing with subscription. Like what has driven someone to subscribe? What do we account for that? And we usually look at analytics around like what was the first thing they watched as a way to kind of like deal with attribution. Um, and like when there's like a big spike in new subscribers or in churn, how are we attributing that? Um, we have our own methodology, but yeah, largely Vimeo TT's analytics platform is very, very good. Google Analytics is very helpful, especially for tracking like referral traffic and
Like the holistic view of your
yeah,
business
getting a
overall.
holistic view, like what is the whole experience looking like?
Yeah, I think we have one more question that kind of ties into this one, which is knowing how often you edit clips out into different forms to different platforms, how do you approach reporting on the overall performance of the content?
It's a good question because, like, we find there to be a little bit of correlation between success on social and success on the platform, but it's not always one to one. the hope is, because we're so strong and organic as our marketing play, we like to see a strong performance on social as like an indicator that, hey, this is resonating with an audience.
Yep.
But we will find disconnects too, where like something like maybe not like the biggest on social, but does really really well on Vimeo. Like Dimension 20 is a weird show, and that sometimes it really does well on social media, but it is this 3 hour D&D show with a lot of very specific terminology and stuff, and it sometimes doesn't always do that great on social, but it does really really well on Vimeo OTT. And what matters to us ultimately is what the performance is like on platform, and people are
Right,
really
right.
engaged with it. They're really deeply consuming it. And so if it's like underperforming a little on social, it's not really a big deal for us. That's a discovery tool, and we want it, we try our best there, but what matters is what it's doing on platform.
That makes total sense. Thank you. So that was our last question. So Andrew, I can't thank you enough. It's always so good to see you, and this was great diving in and having a look back at Dropout in the last 5 years. So thank you so much, and thank you everyone for joining and asking such thoughtful questions.
Yeah, thank you so much to everyone who tuned in, to everyone who asked questions, and thank you to you, French, and to Vimeo OTT for making all of this possible. I truly will never want to work at another job again. I want to be a Dropout fan. So,
That's amazing. To the next 5 years and to the Emmys.
exactly. We'll see.
Thank you.